Welcome back to the Upper Tier Podcast, the football podcast we bring you each and every week on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Audio versions of the show are available through Anchor. And if you'd like to contact the show, you can contact us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, the Upper Tier, and also on Twitter at Sessions Shankly. This is your Shankly Sessions show. We're bringing you a bonus show this week, of course, celebrating 10 years of the one and only Jordan Henderson. How could we not do an episode on this man? 10 years, a decade at Liverpool. Where do we begin with this? Safe to say this is a very interesting conundrum here because kind of came in, nearly got blasted back out the door nearly as quick. Rodgers kind of didn't really fancy him. I don't think a lot of the fan base kind of took to him really too quick either. Constantly trying to break through into the team. Rodgers kind of wanting them to go out, offered him up to Fulham, I think it was. You could leave the Fulham if you wanted, but he stuck around, in fairness to him, showed a bit of character and wanted to stay. But operated a lot of those early years, I suppose, in the shadow of Gerrard.
Like many before him, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Very few players in the past who sat in that squad, and we thought to ourselves, if Stevie ever walks away, or Stevie retires, or Stevie ever got a career-ending injury, we all would have looked at each other and were like, what next? Like, who replaces the man? Like, one thing I will say about Jordan Henderson before we delve into this is, I'll gladly put both hands up and say that he made me humble pie. We've a very interesting story on our love for Jordan Henderson, which we'll get into shortly.
Absolutely.
We will gladly, and I'd like to think that today, as this celebration is going ahead, because it is a celebration. You look at the stuff that's going on LFC TV tonight at 7:30. There's a documentary. The Redmen TV went out. They have a documentary made about him. Anyone that's got a strong affiliation with the club has gone out of way to celebrate the man tonight. That video I sent you last night, I actually had a tear in my eye, the one where he got his father involved.
Yeah.
It's a great and fascinating story. But yeah, before we get into this, I'd like to say that I gladly ate humble pie in regards to Jordan Henderson.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose when Klopp came in, we had this moniker, doubters to believers. And in terms of Jordan Henderson, if there was ever two Liverpool fans that doubters to believers, it's definitely me and you, without a shadow of a doubt. And we will have a good story, no less, from Carragher's Bar in New York, and we will get into that. It's crazy. But God, where do we begin with him? It's 2008, 2011, Sunderland, 71 appearances, 4 goals. Gets loaned out to Coventry, 10 appearances, 1 goal. And then moves to Liverpool. So this is a lad who's at Sunderland, loaned out to Coventry, finds himself at Liverpool. 290 appearances, 27 goals. Now, an absolute unbelievable human being, but not a man that you'd use the word prolific.
Definitely.
Discussing him. 2011 breaks into the first team. 9th of June 2011, was transferred to Liverpool for an undisclosed fee, but that fee is believed to be somewhere between 16 and 20 million.
One of the best bargains we ever got in recent history, 16 to 20 million, because you look at the player that he's turned into, especially after the early years, it's unfortunate about some of the injuries he's picked up and the long spells he's had out of the team. But just put it this way, who'd ever thought we'd be sitting here saying that Liverpool are a better team with Jordan Henderson in it than without him in it?
Yeah,
I love the whole story behind this. It's absolutely amazing. You touched on here about the whole Rodgers telling him he could leave, and the deal was almost done to go to Fulham. If he had have said, look, I want to stay and fight for my place, and 2 years later he was still sitting on the bench and it didn't work out for him, it's a whole different story. But hindsight's a beautiful thing. I always say that hindsight is a beautiful thing. And I'm absolutely buzzing. You probably tell with a smiling face, I'm absolutely buzzing that we're here celebrating 10 years of Jordan Henderson.
absolutely.
Story behind the man is just brilliant.
And I suppose as Liverpool fans and a Liverpool fan base, we love to be proven wrong anyway, don't we? Because we can be at times very, very skeptical. I mean, obviously, it's very difficult. You're talking about a time there. If you look at his first, say, 4 or 5 years, you have a team that's in serious transition. You have Gerrard, who's sort of, coming to the end of his career, but still an unbelievable player and servant for the club. So Jordan's trying to figure out where he fits in the Liverpool project. Stephen's trying to figure out how long he has left, kind of. In between that, you've kind of got Rodgers there. It was kind of there, but nearly there, but not quite there. And then I suppose we have the whole thing of, that season where, God, we really should have won that league, shouldn't we? When you think about it, it was absolutely ridiculous. And then, the draws at Palace and the loss to Chelsea and the slip and all these different kind of things. And remember, if you remember back, a lot of that time, a lot of that stuff, and I'm not pitching it in this way in any way, but he was out of the team at that stage. Jordan was, when a lot of that stuff was going, and he wasn't playing. And he only came back in at the latter stages of the season when it was too late. But you remember back your memories of that time. I mean, Gerrard was devastated. We don't let this slip, and then he slipped, and and then you've Suarez on the pitch at Palace, and he's in tears. He can't be consoled. Gerrard's trying to console him, pushing the cameraman away. So you had a lot of turmoil going on and a lot of disappointment and all these kind of things. And this was Jordan Jordan's early years at Liverpool. But when we really get to see the real Jordan Henderson is when Stevie has a prolonged time out of the team. He's picking up injuries, but Brendan is using them more often, kind of from the bench and stuff like that, and all. He's trying to figure out how the team is going to adjust stuff that. And we see Jordan coming in a couple of times, captain in the squad, and doing a real good job. And then he moves into that season where he gets the vice captaincy,
Yeah.
And this is what really brings him along. I'm not sure about your feelings at that time, but I was kind of thinking Jordan Henderson as vice captain of the team. I wasn't too sure. I wasn't sold on it. And then I was also thinking Steven Gerrard, when he moves on, the talk was obviously that Jordan was going to get the captaincy. And I was thinking we had gone from so many years of Steven Gerrard as captain and being unbelievable. Everything about Liverpool, absolute baller, 100% for the club every time. Rarely let us down. And we're going to move on to Jordan Henderson, who is a very different personality, not necessarily a Liverpool boy, hasn't had the best of starts in his Liverpool career, but is trying to fit in. And this is the man that we're pitching the club's future on to replace Steven Gerrard. So
yeah, no, go finish off there.
Go ahead. I was going to go to you there.
No, it was like the early days, like they don't make happy thoughts. There's no happy thoughts when you think back to those days. Not necessarily just on Jordan Henderson, just in the club in the whole, like with Roy Hodgson with being manager, and the best thing that happened in those days was Kenny returned as manager, and we got that League Cup victory and all. And I was watching the videos of Henderson last night, and geez, he looked like a little boy that day. The picture of him, and he's really like that meant everything. Now you get your first bit of silverware at Liverpool, and I think a lot of credit goes for someone like Kenny Dalglish to trust you to come into a club like Liverpool. You know what I mean? And as we get to later on, like Kenny presenting him with the Premier League trophy, it was like everything came full circle. You know what I mean? But from the early days where there was a massive question mark over where Jordan Henderson was going to take the club, of where the club was going wholly, what direction that was going to when he lifts the Premier League trophy, it's fascinating. You'd need a lot longer than what we're going to sit here and talk to go through all the ups and downs and ins and outs of where his career went. But as you said, like you sat back then and you were like, Steven Gerrard absolutely epitomizes the club. You know what I mean? And I only got to probably the 2 years before Stevie retired. where I started to, because when you're growing up and you have all these great players around you, you know what I mean? Like as you'd have grown up with Kenny and you'd have grown up with Kevin Keegan and etc. It doesn't even cross your mind that your heroes one day are going to leave the club and they're going to leave for good, or in like, for example, like Jamie Carragher and Steven Gerrard, like one man clubs, and you know, you're so used to seeing them every single day. And then as you get older, you realize that people don't live forever and careers don't go on forever. And, you know, lads, eventually their bodies just shut up and they have to close the doors and walk away. And when it came to the realization of when Stevie retires, it wasn't a case of if, it was a case of when he retires. You're looking at that squad and you're thinking, who's there to grab everyone by the scruff of the neck and get them out of bad days on the pitch? Who's there to get them out of the dark days off the pitch when, like, for instance, the club was in massive trouble, stuff like that. Like, and you're looking around, you think to yourself, like, the manager can't do that on his own. You know what I mean? He needs. But what we didn't know was that, you know, Jordan was learning off one of the best to ever do in Steven Gerrard. And as you said, like when he got the vice captaincy, you know, you had big figures in the squad. You had Martin Skerr, you had Mamadou Sakho, you know, lads like that. When you look back at it as well, you think to yourself, like, if Jordan Henderson doesn't get the vice captaincy and someone else does, like, where do we end up? Where would we be now? Do you know what I mean? You know, there was Steven Gerrard had a lot to do with picking Jordan Henderson as vice captain. You know what I mean? And he learned from the best. But when we look at it now, as I said, hindsight is so wonderful. You know what I mean? Back then, we were so anxious. We were so worried. We didn't know what was going to happen 5, 6, 7 years down the line. And look where we are. And as I said, I never in my wildest dreams imagined that this club wouldn't be where it is now without someone like Jordan Henderson in it.
Yeah, 100%. I always remember, I'm sure I can bring it back to this. Remember that unbelievable moment and that picture when Steven Gerrard is putting the captain's armband on Jordan's arm.
Hold on. I have something for you. You dig it out. We'll get to the second one in a minute. But would this be the iconic moment you were talking about?
That is the moment, yeah. And it's really, when you think about it, like, you see this happening all the time in clubs, but this really was the passing of a torch, wasn't it, really, when you think about it?
1,000,000%. I got that on, funny enough, I got that on a t-shirt the week we were actually going to New York for WrestleMania. Yeah. And we'll get to that story shortly. That's one of the most, like, the way I see it is, when Jordan Henderson's career is over and there's people talking about, there's still people out there who criticize him. You know, there's people out there who will never be happy with what he gives the club. When Jordan Henderson steps away from Liverpool Football Club, he's remembered as one of the greatest captains to ever do it for the club. That's like down to the man himself. All you have to do is look back to that Fulham story when, you know, the door was open. Liverpool were more than happy to let him go. There was no one standing in his way. If Jordan Henderson takes that route down his career, nobody knows where he is. You know, nowadays he could have gone into obscurity. He could be playing championship football. You know, you had Alex Ferguson came out and he criticised him. You had ex-United players come out and criticised him. You know, we criticised him. You know, that's why I got that on a t-shirt. That is one of the most iconic pictures in Liverpool's recent history, because we had no idea where things were going when Steven Gerrard left. And when he did retire and Jordan Henderson was the man to take the mantle, even at that stage in his career, there was question marks around him. To where we are now, you know, the last 4 years, especially the last 3 years, have just been a whirlwind for him. I'm just glad, like, when Stevie talks about him and he talks about how proud he is, it's like a proud father. It's like a proud brother. Yeah. Stevie knows what Jordan Henderson has given to the club. He knows what personal sacrifices he made. He almost lost his father and all. You know, it's quite an emotional, upsetting story as well. Yeah. And, like, we will be successful again, and he will be the man to lift the trophy for us when we are successful again. But you just look back to the pictures after we won the trophy in Madrid, you know, when he's crying in his father's arms and his father's crying into his arms. And the two of them look at each other, and Jordan is like, I did it. And his dad was like, yeah, you fucking did do it. You did this on your own.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many iconic pictures that come out of that we'll touch on. But I also wanted to mention as well the vice captaincy that he got. He got no less from one and only an absolute legend and a man that we love, one Daniel Lager, which is unbelievable. So this is how much the club thought of Jordan Henderson. You know what I mean? A vice captaincy off Daniel Lager, who, you know, has Liverpool printed all over his body to this day. An unbelievable
Absolutely.
player.
Very, very few like the old Dagger, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, moved on to the captaincy then off Stevie, obviously. But yeah, unbelievable. I often remember as well that moment you're talking about in Madrid with the dad and all. But I remember when he ran over the Klopp. I remember when they embraced and Klopp's hat was sideways and the glasses were all over the place.
Just balling their eyes out.
It's like as if the two of them had just gotten hit in slow motion by one of those water balloon bombs or something. Like they were just, it was unbelievable, that picture. It's so iconic. Like
that's so iconic. But you go back to the Barcelona game in the semi-final, Niall, when he was playing in excruciating pain. You know, Milner and Gini dropped to their knees. Gini is in an absolutely hysteric state, bawling his eyes out. Milner is crying. Lallana goes over to Henderson, and he can barely get off the ground. He's in that much pain. It's just a credit to the man. I could sit here and talk about how much appreciation, how grateful I am to Jordan Henderson, because you know as well as I do, there's lads in the game who feel the slightest twinge of pain and are more than happy to shut up shop and collect their wages every week. Jordan Henderson, that season alone, was taking injections before every game because his knees were really, really bad. And, you know, for all the emotion that he shares, you know, we all share the euphoria. You know what I mean? So he feels that emotion. We feel the euphoria. And I'll sit here all day long and praise him for what he's given to the club and what he's put himself through for the club.
And he's amazing as well. I mean, for a kid who's so humble and so shy, even still, when you see him doing interviews on LFC TV or on the Sky Sports or whatever it is, he's still so refined and so back and into himself and stuff. You know what I mean? He doesn't put himself out there, even though he's had so much success. It's a credit to him, really, you know.
He's the epitome. He's the epitome of like a personal award is really for the whole picture. You know what I mean? You can't ever see. I know a lot of players nowadays when they win trophies, it's about the people who are surrounding them that got him there. But Jordan Henderson is literally the epitome of a personal award is for everybody. Yeah. He just oozes that about him. He demands respect, and I tell you what, he's earned my respect. He's definitely earned my respect.
Yeah. So following the departure of Stevie in June 2015, he was made captain, but he's injured and he's out of the team when Jurgen shows up. So again, you know, he can't really catch a break, really. You know, you would think he'd be there and fired up and ready to go. Jurgen Klopp's coming in. Here we go. It's the Klopp era. It's going to be different. There is a bit of transition and there's a bit of rebuilding, especially when you go and you look at that team that Jurgen inherited. Needed serious work on it, let's say.
I wondered when Jurgen came in and he obviously in the first few months and the first few weeks he sat there and he was like, these are the guys that I want to stay and be part of what I want to build. I wonder when he came in with Jordan being injured, I wonder was there a question mark on his name as if to say, is he really someone that, because we knew from the Dortmund days what kind of football that Jurgen played, you know what I mean? And he came in there and fair play to him, he worked with what he had, you know, he turned doubters into believers. But I wonder, will there ever be a day when Jurgen comes out, maybe if he's there and Jordan retires and he says, you know, when I did come in, there was a question mark on his name as to will he be part of what I want to build? It's all ifs and buts. It's a fascinating story. We all want to hear.
I'd say the thing with Jurgen Klopp, not dissimilar to a lot of German coaches out there, not dissimilar even to Thomas Tuchel now, you know. They kind of come in, and when they come in and they're fresh, there's a question mark over everyone's name.
Yeah.
You know, it's not any particular players. They look at that squad in totality and they go, well, what do I fancy in this? What's good? What's bad? Let me have a look. Give everyone a chance. You seen it with Tuchel when he came into Chelsea. He gave everyone a chance to kind of sound him out and see what he wanted and stuff, you know. So it's not unusual. Like, so I'm sure Jurgen was coming in and going, you know, I need to survey the whole landscape here to figure out who are the guys. I mean, he often pinpoints guys in terms of work rate and stuff like that. He's not necessarily looking for that guy that's amazing and skillful and be that guy that stands out. He's looking in terms of a team effect on 100% on work rate and how it all meshes together. And I mean, boy, did he get it right. Um,
we talk about him coming in and the work rate. Imagine having to come in and look at Mario Balotelli's fucking face.
Yeah, I can't imagine Mario Balotelli in any shape or form being a Jurgen Klopp player.
Did you hear Ricky Lambert's story on
no.
coming into train, smoking and all, and
yeah.
you could just see Jurgen having one of those bad days, and you could just see the steam coming out of his ears, and he looking at this fella and saying, "If you are my son, I would put you down for fuck's sake." Stuff. Good times.
Yeah, absolutely. So he sustained a knee injury in the Europa League first leg clash with Borussia Dortmund, which ruled him out until nearly the end of the season. So he finished that season 2015-16, 26 appearances and 2 goals. And I think when we're judging Jordan Henderson, we don't necessarily judge him in terms of goals and assists and that type of stuff. We judge him in terms of work rate and his captaincy and all that other stuff that he brings to the team. You know, if he happens to pop up every so often and get a now spectacular goal, happy days and stuff like that. But it's not really his role in the team. His role in the team is to solidify that midfield and move things around and be that kind of pivot at times. And he does it unbelievably well.
We talk about that as well. Like, we don't, like, he doesn't necessarily get a goal or assist. Like, in the 392 games for the club, he scored 30 goals and he's 51 assists. So, like, that's nearly a goal or assist every 4 games. Like, when you think about it, now it doesn't seem like he scores that often or he assists on him, but that's absolutely outstanding. Because when you look back on his early days as well, he played as a defensive midfielder. It was only really when Jurgen came in and that changed the position. Is why Liverpool are where they are now, because he pushed Jordan Henderson forward. He had Fabinho there, who was like 2 extra men in front of the defence.
Yeah.
And it's only since he started playing in that new position have we seen him take his game up 20%, 30%. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we also play a formation that doesn't necessarily lend itself to him getting forward and doing those kind of things, because we kind of play with those wing backs with Robbo and Trent going forward, and we play with the 3 guys up front creating the movement and stuff like that. So our midfield is more of a kind of a holding pattern, really, to move those sort of chess pieces around, so that they're not necessarily expected to get into those positions at times, you know, even though we have a great goal scorer in a goalkeeper, and we obviously get some loads of great goals as well off our centre backs and stuff like that. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from, Minnie. Yeah, he spent 2017-18 as a first team regular, no doubt about it. This is where Jurgen all in on the guy without a shadow of a doubt. 23rd of September, he scores his only goal of the season, a winner against Leicester in a 3-2 win. He captained Liverpool. For the first time in the Champions League against a German side, Hoffenheim, to their first time in the Champions League. His first time as Liverpool in the Champions League. I remember
that was in the qualifiers. Yeah, I remember being absolutely pissed in Sinitsberg.
Yeah, I think I was on holidays for that Hoffenheim game. Me and Ben were watching it in a bar somewhere in Spain, I think, as far as I know.
Trent scored that worldie of a free kick. Emre Can, I'll let myself speak about him. With 2 goals in the home leg. Yeah, that's when the rock and roll football really started. From that game on, you know, that season itself. We know where that went, and we know where our story is coming into play without Tigers Bar. You know, that was the season that the rock and roll football started.
If I'm right about that Hoffenheim game, did we play a game either 4 days later or 5 days later, and we either gave Arsenal or we gave Spurs an absolute pasting, if I can remember right after that Hoffenheim game?
Yeah, because the qualifier the qualifier was I think was it the week before the season started was the first leg.
Like it was August the 15th. It was actually, I think it was either the Tuesday or the Wednesday right after the Community Shield, and then we were straight into the league. But I just something's telling me that game right after that Hoffenheim game, we either played Arsenal or we played Spurs, and we gave them an absolute hiding. Because it only triggered me there when you mentioned that heavy metal football. I remember we were watching that league game as well, and boy God, did we absolutely perform.
I'm almost certain that it was Arsenal, because we seem to for 3 or 4 years we seem to get them every start of the season in around if it wasn't the first game, it was the second or third, and we always seem to give them a thrashing. But that season, once we got the ball rolling with the Champions League qualification, it was full steam ahead. Everybody was 100% committed to the cause, and we were just going out. There was days where we didn't play great, but when we played really, really well, we just wiped the floor. I think we beat Arsenal 4-0 that day, if I'm not right, or not mistaken. It wasn't. I was around that score. I know we scored a good few goals.
Yeah, I can't remember whether it was Arsenal or Spurs now, but when you spoke about the heavy metal football, it just triggered me there that I was watching it in a bar with Ben, and I just know it was either Arsenal or Spurs. I can't remember, but we put one of them to the sword anyway. He captains the side all the way to the Champions League final in Kiev. One that I don't remember too fondly because it was Ben's. We had booked tickets and we were sitting in the Cop that night, watching it on the big screens in Anfield. And it was Ben's first trip over to Anfield, and I remember he was so excited. And we had done the tour, and we had done the trophy room and all the other stuff to go with it, and all the tours around Liverpool. I wanted to show Ben everything, the whole Liverpool experience, because he'd never been there. And I remember the night we lost. And there was just people everywhere in tears in the Cop, as most Liverpool fans were. And I remember a shout out to Tom from the Red Men TV. Tom was on the Cop that night with the Red Men TV, and he came over to Ben and he said, "Listen, kid, are you all right?" And I said, "He's just a bit upset, man. He's disappointed in the out result like us all, And Tom turned around and whispered in his ear, "You won't be crying for too long, pal," he says, "because we're going to do magical things with this team." And he was bang on.
Yeah, I was correct. That was it. When you asked me about that game after Hoffenheim, I had to check it. It was a 4-0 against Arsenal. We absolutely tore them asunder.
Just something triggered me. I remember I was in a bar with Ben and we were watching it, and I was just blown away by the performance.
Yeah,
absolutely blown away.
That season, when we talk about the front three, we move on to the Champions League now in a second. That season, it seemed like any time that we scored more than 2 or 3, the front three always scored, and then Sturridge came on. So Salah, Mane, and Firmino scored, and then Daniel Sturridge came on to make it 4-0. But just when we're talking about the losing the Champions League final in Kiev, I remember sitting with my missus watching it, and before the game, I always said, like, any cup finals or whatever that I'd watched with her, we didn't particularly do well, and I said, if we lose this final and we ever get to another final, I'm going out on a 2 or 3 day bender, because I can't put myself through this anymore, because my missus is one of these where if Liverpool score and you go ballistic, she tell you to shut up, or if you lose and you're feeling a bit down, she's like, it's only a game of football.
Never.
Never only a game of football. But yeah, when we talk about that night, as demoralising as it was, it's funny how a lot of Liverpool fans told themselves and told each other that this is only the beginning for us. Now, it felt hard to believe that night when everybody was like, the pictures of Karius bawling his eyes out, apologising to the fans. Liverpool were the better team that night until Salah came off the pitch, in my opinion. And I'm not being biased. I really do think we were in with a shout. And even when we scored to make it 2-1 or 1-1, I genuinely think that we are still in a shout. Look, Gareth Bale's goal will never be replicated. And the mistakes that Karius made, look, it is what it is. But as heartbreaking as it was, a lot of us did believe that it was only the start. And we'll get to the following season now in a couple of minutes. But, what you said, like Tom put his arm around Ben. He said, "Look, lad, don't be upset. You know, like, let us sink in. Like, tonight wasn't our night." And
yeah,
he was very, very right in where we went the 2 seasons afterwards.
It was just a mad experience because Tom was upset himself. But it's just, shout out to those guys on Red Men TV. I mean, he was so selfless that night in the way he consoled Ben. I said, "Listen, Ben, it's going to be all right." Because I was explaining to Tom it's his first time over and it kind of had been ruined and marred by that and stuff like that and all. And then, I brought him out the next day and we went to the club store, the superstore, and we bought loads of stuff. And you know what I mean? And I turned around to him and I bought him the, the pennant of the final in Kiev. And we still have it here somewhere. I think it's hanging somewhere over there. And I said to Ben said to me, "Why would you buy that?" He says, after we lost it. And I turned around to Ben and I said, "The one thing you'll learn as a Liverpool fan is you'll always look at those things to remember those times, to enjoy those other times." And I said, it's really important that you understand your history to enjoy your success when you fail. And
you look at, like what you're saying there about, you suffer the heartache and the heartbreak to make those wins. They feel more special, you know what I mean? That's why you look at the United players coming off after the Europa League final. And again, if it wasn't Man United and it was someone else, I'd be saying the exact same thing. So I don't want United fans looking in and saying, "Oh, here we go, Liverpool."
You could say the same thing about City.
Yeah, City's first ever Champions League final. Those players should have been coming off the pitch, because you look at the players in that City team and the manager that's there, world-class management, world-class players. They should be those medals should be sitting on their neck and saying, I don't ever want to feel this again. It shouldn't be coming off in a disrespectful way. Take it off when you get into the dressing room. Like, you look at the United players, you had lads who didn't, like your man Amit Diallo or whatever his name is, coming off like, you're whipping off the medal as if, I'm a serial winner and what is this thing doing on my neck? Liverpool got lucky that when we won the Champions League the following season, that was a case of the players that were in the squad got a medal. So you Kevin Kelleher got a Champions League winners medal. You Ryan Brewster got a Champions League winners medal. Curtis Jones got a Champions League winners medal. These lads might never play a Champions League final ever again. They may do play a Champions League final again. That whether you played a part or not. Now we know in the old school days, you'd like Roy Keane. If you didn't play a part and you got a winners medal, it meant nothing to you. What a time for these kids to get winners medals. You know what I mean? They're only kids. The first taste of success is a Champions League winners medal. But then you look at the situation with losers medals. I'd like to imagine that if they got losers medals, that they wouldn't be getting thrown into the bin or they wouldn't be getting given away. That's something you put front and center every day that you look at and say, I'm only starting out my career. I never want to feel that again. Strive for greatness. I want to pick up winners medals. And I think with this all generates back to Jordan Henderson. You look at the bad moments in his career and what he accomplished with Liverpool. Like Steven Gerrard passing the armband to Jordan Henderson. Whoever takes that armband off Jordan Henderson is going to be in a pretty prestige place. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So then we move on. We move on to the next season, and then for us it was an unbelievable season. I mean, when you think about it,
bittersweet.
We pushed City all the way. Ended up losing out on the league by a point. And 20 minutes into that last day of the season, the Brighton game, I think Glenn Murray popped up and scored a goal for Brighton. And we were winning the league for about 15 minutes. But it didn't work out for us. But we pushed on. I mean, when you think about it, will we ever forget that Barcelona night?
No, never.
And we won't allow our viewers either, because if you go back a few episodes, you'll find an episode there where we covered that unbelievable night at Anfield, the 4-0 against Barcelona.
If you check out the Shank Session at Shank Sessions Twitter page, it's going to be reposted after we finish up here tonight. So just to relive that moment. Just bittersweet, to lose the league by a point, players coming off the pitch on the last day of the season against Wolves, and you could see how much it hurt, you know what I mean, to get that close. Champions League final was a week later, and it was, I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't a bit bit anxious because the players got so close to winning the league, and could that affect, you know, some days it could affect players, but we were lucky enough that we didn't play the best Champions League. We hadn't got the best performance in the Champions League final, but we got the job done. And that's why, you know, with players like Jordan Henderson in the team, you're not allowed to let your performances drop. That's why when Jordan Henderson in the team, Liverpool are better than when he's not in the team. The stats prove that, you know, the points per game when Jordan Henderson plays is greater than when he doesn't play, you know.
Yeah.
Bit of sweet, but he got the job done, and he joined European royalty. Let's say.
Into folklore.
There you go. Yeah. What a picture, you know. Some great men there. To say it, you know, Emlyn Hughes, Phil Thompson, Graham Souness, Stephen Gerrard, and now Jordan Henderson, you know, lift to the European Cup, you know, and we'll get to winning the league next too.
We were in Liverpool that night for that Champions League final. We were at the Aintree Racecourse watching it. It was unbelievable, that the party atmosphere. We ended up winning. Everyone was so happy. We headed back into the city. The city was in absolute turmoil. Everyone was just celebrating. You couldn't get up and down the streets. There was lads stacked on lampposts right to the top. It was unbelievable. But we got up. We celebrated throughout the night and stuff like that. We had a great time, and then we got up the next morning and we went to the club store again, as we always do before we head home. And I brought him over, and I got the pennant from the Madrid final. And he turned around to me and he says, "Dad, I understand now." So it was brilliant. But
hindsight is a wonderful thing.
So then we move on then, the league. We go into the season. We're absolutely putting everyone to the sword, open up a huge gap. Well, I suppose now, so we've actually skipped here. We went on and we won the Super Cup, and then we went on and we won the World Club Cup. And Jordan Henderson is the only ever British captain to have ever held the treble continental.
That's why he'll go down in Liverpool folklore.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. So yeah, we move on then, and we move into the season. And here we go. We hit the ground running again, like there was no break at all. Absolutely off to a flying start, winning games for fun, playing great football, keeping clean sheets.
Grinding out results that, you know, when last minute, how many games did we get winners in the last 2 minutes? So we just really grounded out. That season, yeah, it's great. We went on and won the league, but that was the epitome of, we nearly done it last season. We need to lift that extra 5-10%. You know what I mean? They could make a documentary about how to work harder. You only need to watch the End of the Storm documentary to show, you know, we had that togetherness. We had leaders in the team. We had a manager who instilled belief into everybody. The fans were so invested. Like, we go back to the early days of Jurgen Klopp, where he's looking at the fans leaving with 5-10 minutes to go. Everything has come completely full circle in that season, where it wasn't the 12th man of Anfield. It was almost as if it was fucking 60-odd thousand, and the 11 on the pitch that were doing the job.
And of course, then we get to around the February or the March period, we're basically champions, and the pandemic and COVID kicks in, and there's talk of null and void. There's talk of an asterisk being put beside it. There's talk of the season being cancelled. All this talk going through our minds. And in the meantime, as Liverpool fans, we're watching all the players doing exercises on Zoom and laughing and joking with each other. But the fan base was absolutely riddled with anxiety. 30 years we were waiting for this to happen. And only as Liverpool fans could a COVID pandemic kick in to pull that apart. It was an unbelievable time, but
those Zoom yoga classes with the team, they brilliant stuff. You know, they really helped get through the dark days, the early days of the full lockdown and stuff like that. And again, everything, you know, that the bond, all the lads singing happy birthday in fucking 15 different languages, and just the piss taking of everybody, you know. They I think they depended on themselves as well, because at that stage it was very uncertain about whether football would be back or not. And I think if you'd have sat down individually with all those players and with Jurgen, you'd have seen a different mindset. You know what I mean? They kind of fed off each other to get them through. Because can you imagine if they had a null and void the season? Imagine the heartbreak, you know, people that had lost people early on through coronavirus, you know, that were so committed to Liverpool, you know, and Liverpool was what was getting them through those dark days. It's such, like, even though we're still in the midst of it now, but you look back then, like, it's funny, those people that were calling for a null and void season, the UK for the season that's just finished was in a worse predicament than it was when we were top of the league. But you didn't hear one person coming out and saying null and void simply because it was Liverpool on top of the league. End of story. That's simply what it was. Nobody wanted to hear Liverpool fans celebrating a league title. Look, who's to say it might not happen again league-wise? You know what I mean? All these teams could go out and spend money. I believe we'll be successful again. I believe that we deserve to be successful again, because the fans never got the chance to celebrate. You know, I mean, we had our trip planned. We were going over for the trophy parade. We'd probably still be in Liverpool getting pissed now, a year later. But yeah, it was such an uncertain time. You know, I mean, you look back to, let's talk about Jordan in the sense of the NHS ambassador, Jordan Henderson, you know, who went out of his way, got the Premier League captains together. He set up all these foundations and stuff like that. The man he embodies everything that Liverpool Football Club is about. How grateful I am, how much I appreciate, and the love I have for him as my captain. That's what I say, my captain, because you get rival fans talking when you say Liverpool, like, as in we, the sense of us, and they look and say, like, do you play for Liverpool? I'm like, no, I don't play for Liverpool. Liverpool is my heart and soul. And Jordan, how proud to call Jordan Henderson my captain. And even long after he's gone, we'll still call him my captain, because that's why we're here today, to celebrate the man. He hasn't died, and I hope there's another 5, 6, 7 years left in him at the club. I hope he goes on to, who's to say he doesn't want to be a coach with Steven Gerrard when he's manager at the club. You know what I mean? It's just, everything came full circle, Niall, and I couldn't be happier for the man. You talk about almost losing his father and all. I said it earlier, like I touched on it earlier on. It's just everything. Just, he embodies everything that the club is, you know. And as Stephen said, no better man to hand the captaincy down to. When you talk of Jamie Carragher retiring, then Steve retiring, the club was in the quicksand, as you say. And I just think that he was the right man to take the captaincy. I think if we'd have given it to someone else, I don't think we'd have been where we are now, regardless of who the manager was. And it's a credit to himself and his father and his family and the lads around him that he got that platform to be where he is now.
Yeah, it's unbelievable to think that in the future we could potentially have Steven Gerrard as manager and Jordan Henderson as assistant, and then Jordan eventually become a manager, you know, hopefully sometime down the line. Not that we're in a hurry to get rid of Jurgen Klopp, there's no rush. No. In general, you know, that would be an incredible situation. And you know, I just wonder with Jordan Henderson, would the story be finished in terms of getting told the day he retires from football? You know what I mean? So it'll be an interesting conundrum to see what happens there. But I think he'll stay involved. He's a footballing lad, isn't he? And he loves it.
Definitely, like 100%. I'd be very, very shocked and surprised if when he hangs up the boots. Look, he may not finish his career at Liverpool, and he may decide he wants to go back and play a final year with Sunderland before he hangs up the boots. But I do genuinely, just to see what he's embodied about the club since he came in 10 years ago. Yeah. Would be very surprised and shocked if he's not one day part of the backroom staff at the club, because he may be born in Sunderland and he's one of those true and true, but he's definitely a Scouser in our eyes and our heart, isn't he?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think it's only fitting that we finish the episode with you telling the story so our viewers can laugh at us about that memorable afternoon. Well, it'd be an afternoon for us. It's an evening back home, but afternoon for us in the one and only Carragher's Bar in New York. we're there having an unbelievable evening. We're getting ready. We're over there for WrestleMania. We're going to NXT. We're having drinks, and then we hear we're going to meet Lewis Garcia. Shout out to Lewis Garcia. He was an absolute gent. We had a great time with Lewis Garcia in Carragher's Bar. The memories of him up on the bar and singing and everything and all, it was just crazy.
When he walks in, and I'm like a big child, and everyone's just having their drinks, having their food, and all. Next while he walks in, and me just typical me, jump up on my own and start singing the Louis Garcia song. No one joins in. I'm like, call yourself fucking fans. Yeah. That day, I think, what was it? What was on that night? Was it NXT on that night?
NXT was on that night. NXT takeover in the Barclays. But before we even were to touch on that, let's talk about, I think, the Southampton game. Me and you had a right few drinks at that stage, without a shadow of a doubt.
And we were sitting there with a Man United fan and a Spurs fan.
Yeah.
The 5th of April 2019. Liverpool are playing an 8 o'clock kickoff against Southampton. I think it was 3 o'clock in the day over in New York. Down to Carragher's Bar. We'd reserved a week or so beforehand. Everybody was excited to go. What have you? We get down there, and 9 minutes in, Shane Long scores 1-0 to Southampton. I'm like, nah, you're not doing this to me today. Like, fucking my first time in New York, Carragher's Bar, Jammers, Lewis Garcia is there. Yeah, and we bumped into Senan Connell as well, that played for the Dublin team as well. Right, and we were chatting. Naby Keita scores the equaliser. So it's just one of those games where the final third, nothing is happening. We're just getting frustrated, and Baz and Como are just annoying us because they don't support Liverpool, and they'd be glad for us to drop points. As you said, it's the 5th of April. It's coming into the last few weeks of the season. We're still neck and neck with Man City, and next of all, the camera pans to Jurgen Klopp on the bench, and the board is going up, and there's Jordan Henderson's face beside him, and myself and yourself look at each other and say, we're chasing a league title here. He cannot be putting Jordan Henderson on to try and win this game for us.
I remember you. You were standing in front of me, and you're so much taller than me, of course. And I remember you turning around and looking at me, like the way the Undertaker turns around and looks at the fans when he gets to the top of the ramp. And you looked at me and went, are these guys for real? We're trying to win this game. And I was there going, I don't know. I said, I'm lost. I don't know what the hell we're doing. So go ahead, go on.
Yeah, Jordan Henderson came on that day, and look, we can sit here and we can talk about how great he is and how iffy things were at the start of his career, but I haven't looked back since that day. Jordan Henderson came on in the 80th minute. He assisted Mo Salah to make it 2-1, and then in the 86th minute he finished it off to make it 3-1. Now, we went on and lost the league, but I always tell the story about Jordan Henderson. You know, nearly two years to the day, we're just past 2 years to the day, when my appreciation levels for Jordan Henderson went through the roof. I looked at him in a whole different light. He came on that day, he grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck, and he tore every bit of respect I had inside. He tore it out of me, and it all sits on his shoulders now. You probably never see this podcast, but you know, if by chance the stars align and he does, I just want to say thank you for the last 10 years. I want to say thank you for making me cry those tears that you cried the night we won the Champions League. I want to say thank you for dragging the team to my first celebration of a league championship in 30 years, and long may it continue. And let's hope, you know, we come back next season fitter, stronger, harder. You know, want to celebrate the league title with the team in on Merseyside at this time next year. As I said, thank you for everything for the last 10 years. You're a credit to yourself, you're a credit to your father, your whole family, but you're a credit to us as well.
Yeah, he's one in a million, and we're very lucky to have him. And I don't think some of these players will ever understand the impact that they have on our lives. For us, it's just an emotional roller coaster, but it forges moments in our life that we never forget. like Carragher's bar. It's nearly like our Barcelona night moment, and we'll be telling that story to our kids and our grandkids. And it's unbelievable, and it's because of that boy Jordan Henderson. He's unbelievable, as you said. He's our captain, and he'll always be.
Yeah, we'll look back. We'll look back on when he retires. I guarantee you, we'll be here. It could be this time next year. Touch wood, it's not. It could be in 5 years' time. But the day he does retire, we'll be sitting here talking about that story again, because it epitomizes what the man has done for the club.
Yeah,
I can't wait to read his book. I can't wait till he talks about that phase, that period in his career where it wasn't going to plan at Liverpool, and he did have to make that decision of, look, do I go and play every week, or do I stay and fight for my place? There's very few players in the game that would have decided to stay and fight for his place. He stayed and fought for his place. He went and won the Champions League. He went and won the league. He won a League Cup at the club. He won the European Super Cup, and he's the only captain to ever lift the World Club Championship.
Yeah.
The story tells itself. Doesn't need me and you sitting here getting cocky and emotional about it. The story tells itself.
And I'm sure he's going to assist us in more silverware in the future without a shadow of a doubt. We look forward to it.
Just make sure Jordan, you get knocked down in the group stages at the Euros and you're back fit and healthy for the start of the pre-season, pal.
We shall see. Anyway, this has been your Shankly Sessions look at 10 years of Jordan Henderson at Liverpool. Absolute pleasure when we look back on these memories, And something, I have never ever felt as good to be wrong, ever.
See that on me? That's humble pie there.
Yeah. So as always, we are part of the Upper Tier, the football podcast on the Dynamo Podcast Network on YouTube. Head over there, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. You will get audio versions of the show over on Anchor. And if you want to hit us up, get onto Twitter at Sessions Shankly. Hit up myself and Dana there and Craig, our partner in crime on this Liverpool podcast. Get over there, hit us up, let us know your thoughts, give us a bit of feedback. As always, we appreciate your likes, your shares, your viewing, subscribing. Anything you can do to support us at this time will be absolutely appreciated. And we enjoy bringing you these on a weekly basis. Dean, pleasure as always.
Good to see you, bro. Take care. See you soon.
Cheers, bud.